The views and opinions expressed by the following program are those of the host, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of this station or Webster Rock Hill Ministries, its management, or other hosts or underwriting sponsors. Programs presented on KWRH-LP are for educational and entertainment purposes only. Views which are presented are for educational purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, or claim any cure of disease or condition.
Hello, this is Greg with Families United, and we are back. We have a special guest today, and his name is Rashid Salam, and he is with the Community Reconnect. He is a collaborative partner with Families United, as we will have guests from time to time. But before we get into that, and I'm going to introduce him, there is, this program today, we're kind of going to talk to the men. As you know, when we did previous radio segments, me and Robin have talked about various subjects in regards to how to nurture, sustain, and fix the family structure. But at this particular point, Robin is off today, and we decided to bring a special guest in and to pretty much cater to the men in the community today. But before I begin, there was an interesting subject that just really caught my eye today, and it talked about, because I'm really big on statistics and things of that sort of nature. It talked about the men in regards to men praying, what percentage of men that you think pray. And it really got my attention because as we look around, we see shortages of men in regards to being in church, helping out, informing groups in the community, cleaning up the community. Just in every aspect, we are losing and men are not showing up. And we thought that this subject would be very vital and very good to talk about because we want to not only reach, teach, nurture, inspire men, we want to get the men woke up in the community, in all aspects, in every community. So in going about this and how it came to my mind was, first and foremost, in anything that, in the Ingram household, we talk about prayer. And we like to begin things with prayer. And what was interesting and what really caught my eye is how many men pray as opposed to starting subjects, praying for things, praying for a way of life, just overall, what percentage of men pray? And these statistics were very interesting that really caught my attention. 47% of men, according to these statistics, pray. 34% don't pray very much, 9% don't pray at all, and 6% somewhat, 2% not really, and then there was a margin of 2% that's NA, which I guess means not applicable. So we've got to do a better job, men. We've got to do a better job, regardless of what community you're in, where you are. We have not only we need to be more present in Bible-based churches, in regards to whatever religion it is. We have to understand that prayer works. In my opinion, and in our household, I mean, that's what we do on a daily basis. And I just thought I'd get that out of the way. Now, after all, this gentleman here who his name is Rashid Salam. He's the CEO and founder of Community Reconnect. I would like to introduce him and let him talk in regards to his collaboration with Families United and what he has done in the past and what he plans to do in the future. So without further ado, Rashid Salam, you're up.
Thanks a lot, Greg. This is really exciting for me to begin to work with an organization that I feel very, very comfortable with in my efforts. I'm I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, but I'm just getting back home over the last 9 months. I was in California and Seattle in the military and so forth and so on, and I'm a former bank manager.
Wow.
For every decision we make, there's always a financial consequence. I always share that with people. But what I do want to do is share with people some of the things that I've done in the past. As a former bank manager, I walked away from the bank industry to raise 2 children on my own. And I decided to start a program based on what I learned in St. Louis, Missouri. The program was referred to as the Carver Scholars Program, which is a math, science, and technology program that we received numerous recognitions from the Intel Corporation, from President Clinton, to the school districts and corporations in Silicon Valley where we were at. And after years of working on this program, I decided to start my own nonprofit called the Be a Champion Foundation. So I included in that an opportunity to work with young males and young females on the importance of getting their lives together, coming up with comprehensive life skill programs that can help them. The problem we found out that we're the best experts of our own selves.
Absolutely.
We just don't have the mechanism by which to learn these things from, and that's why I say comprehensive life skills. Everybody keeps talking about life skills, but nobody talks about an organized, structured life skill program that benefits the human person, that takes the person from one level to the next level and allows them to see themselves 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So if you can't build your own personal life plan because you don't know how to, because it consists of so many different things such as self-identity, social responsibility, finance, healthcare, the ability to understand that you've been affected by trauma or the things that happen in your life at the early stage, has something to do with your connectivity and your ability to function in the future. And we find that in most of our communities, our school systems have come up with a educational initiative that doesn't really address these types of things. We have people bringing psychologists in trying to find out what's wrong with the kids' learning abilities today. I just felt that it was just something that when I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, we had families.
Right.
No
Absolutely.
matter whether you had a mother or a father in the house, you had a whole community that was your mother, your father, and made sure that you did the things that you were supposed to do. In my growing up, I realized that when I was doing things I had no business, there was somebody on my block who would check me every single time.
Absolutely.
And quite frankly, I just learned from a lot of those particular things. I grew up in the Pruitt-Igoe projects. And so, that life was one of those types of lives that was very difficult for most people.
Right.
So I was able to realize what I wanted to be when I was going through these changes. I always wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted to be a psychologist. I became neither one. I became a bank manager. Now, that's really strange. So how do you come to that perspective? So after getting out of the military, I wound up into the banking industry, the finance industry, corporate America. But what I learned in that industry, that every single thing had to do with psychology and every single thing had to do with being a teacher. I like to tell our young people, we all are teachers, leaders, or entrepreneurs. We just don't understand the concept. Don't tell me you're not a leader because you have to lead yourself. Don't tell me you're not a teacher because you have to teach yourself. And don't tell me you're not an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur is one who has a service or ability to sell to someone else. And that entrepreneurial spirit is what we try to create in our young males and females doing the programs that we do. We're just looking for safe, simple, and non-evasive programs, but at the same time, comprehensive information that could benefit these young people, because the world we live in right now is a very detrimental one, and we have to understand that our children are lost. And we see that all throughout America, in urban communities, and matter of fact, in almost all communities, our children have a difficulty trying to sustain themselves and think in terms of what they want to do with themselves.
Now that's interesting. You come with an extensive resume. I mean, you said former bank manager. You talked about the financial industry, which is very important in regards to sustaining families and nurturing and keeping families self-sufficient. You talked about life skills. But this trauma thing is it jumps out at me, because looking at where we are from a standpoint of, we've had housing crisis, we've had so many things that have been so critical and so nurturing to bring devastation to our families. This being a champion, a foundation. So you have a rich and extensive resume, which is just eye-popping. But But and we're going to discuss a lot of those things in regards to that. But how could you? Well, let me do this. We'll spin about to that. But there's also some other subjects in regards to men and what we need to do and how we need to just reaffirm and take back our communities, how we need to nurture our children, educate our families, and how we need to just look in the mirror and be better for ourselves. So we're going to discuss all those topics and subjects, and we're definitely going to talk about some other things. But at this particular point, we're going to go to a break, and we will be right back. Family, we are back. This is in addition in regards to men. We are trying to talk to all the men in all the communities. And at the top of the show, we began with men in regards to prayer. And we feel that a lot of times in every aspect of communities and every subjects in our churches and our schools and our daycares and our just wherever our presence is, we feel that the presence of men is just not prevalent. And that's the reason why we thought about having a show to where we can just sit down and do, instead of chalk talk, we're going to do men's talk. We're going to talk about the subjects that regard to men. Earlier, we talked about the men praying. Now, this is another subject, and we will get back to our guest, Mr. Rashid Salam, who's at the Community Reconnect. But another subject that we want to talk about prior to getting back to him is what prevents men from going to the doctor? What prevents men from going to the doctor? Because a lot of times the wives and the women in the household and the significant others, they're always trying to push us to go to the doctors and this sort of nature. And that doesn't mean all of us, but there's a big percentage of men who sometimes fall short as opposed to going to the doctor to get checked out. So, of course, August is a health awareness month. So that makes this a great time to talk about men in regards to going to the doctor. Now, 36% of men only go to the doctor when they are extremely sick. 36% of men go to the doctor when they are extremely sick. Now, 7% of men don't go to the doctor because they are afraid of what they will find out or if something is wrong with them. 8% of men say that they don't like doctors, which, yeah, we really got to work on this 8% here, because that's 1% is just too many. 11% of men say lack of insurance are preventing them from seeing a doctor. Again, family, we have always been discussing how it is important that in order to nurture, sustain, and to develop a family, we have to have resources. And the reason why is because that 11% of men say, I'm afraid to go to the doctor because I don't have any insurance. Well, that is horrible, because we have clinics where you can go. Sometimes they'll put you on a sliding scale. They'll look at your income. There's various clinics in our communities. Some in the city, there's some in the county. There's a lot of places that you can go if you don't have insurance. So that's another reason why we always talk about resources. We can't have enough of them. 23% men say that they are healthy and don't need to see a doctor. Again, we're back to education. You always need to see a doctor. There could be things you could be walking around where you're thinking, oh, well, I feel great today. And then wham, anything can happen. So, these articles are important and they're very vital, and I like to talk about them because they're dealing with your life. And as a man, you are the leader of the family. I feel that the Most High has put you on this earth to lead a family, to nurture, to sustain, to guide. You need to be there. Just imagine how things are if you're not present in your family structure. So these things are very, very important, and I like to talk about them. And I think that these are one of the things that complete, nurture, and help our family structure stay sustainable. And unfortunately, a sustainable family helps a vibrant, growing community. With that, got that out of the way. Okay, we're back to our guest, Mr. Salam here, and he talked about a lot of things in regards to what Community Reconnect does, but I want to ask him to collaborate and more or less talk about this trauma thing because, all his subjects seem to be very important in helping, sustaining, and nurturing and educating the family structure. But I want him to elaborate on this trauma thing because I for some reason, and he can maybe address this issue too, I think that's probably one of the most important things in regards to things that can really hurt our communities and our family. So Rashid, give us some points on this trauma thing. How does that work? And what do we need to do to avoid all this toxic stress and all this kind of stuff?
I'm glad you brought that up, Greg. And I just want to lead into what you were talking about men not going to see the doctor. And once again, that's an educational thing. And it usually comes from trauma in our past lives. But the beautiful part about this whole thing is that the lack of education about your human anatomy is one of the main reasons we have this fear factor about going to the doctor. What man wants to feel less than? When you educate yourself about health care, it's things that you have to know about how your body functions. We walk around with this thing 24/7, you don't know how it works. So when things go wrong, instead of, they always make this statement about women from Venus and men are from Mars. There's no doubt about that. We're wired a little bit differently, and our connection is not the same. We have a problem with connecting. But at the same time, systemically, men have this role to play in life. It's supposed to be the men don't cry, men don't do this, men don't do that. And that plays into the trauma of society.
Right.
Number one. Chronic trauma has a cumulative effect, impacting the brain, impacting the body, and all your functionalities. Once trauma hits, it causes a short circuit in your brain situation. More than 50% of the general population has experienced at least one traumatic event in their lifetime. 25% of the people have experienced more than two. That's deadly. We look at foster care kids. They say in foster care children, PTSD is twice as high as veterans coming back from a war. So we know trauma is a prevalent problem. It's a problem that causes our dysfunctionality mentally as well as physically. It causes all different types of problems. Trauma creates fight, flight, and freeze. What men do, we freeze. Or we fight. Or we fly, or we run away from the situation. We don't want to face the reality that we have weaknesses and shortcomings. But that's what I love about the family. The role of a woman in a man's life is to identify all of his weaknesses. God did that. We ain't got nothing to do with it. So when she identifies those shortcomings and weaknesses, we tend to have a problem with attitude. You trying to tell me something, whatever it may be, but it goes back to things that have happened to you in your past. It all depends on what community you come from to determine that type of thing. What happened to me growing up? I had witness in my life at 16 years old, a good friend of mine being shot right in front of my face.
Wow.
That was a traumatic experience that I never forgot. To this day, I still go through changes behind that whole thing. But when he got shot in front of my face, I didn't run. I froze. And to this day, I can't figure out why didn't I run, because I could have been the one who got shot too. Did it have a traumatic effect on my life? Yes, it did. My mother passed away at 14 years old as a young man. Did it have a traumatic effect on my life? Yes, it did, because I had no faith. I had no ability to want to give myself to anybody because I never wanted to be hurt like that again. So that historical thing that affected my brain, that affected my body and my thought processes was something that we never addressed. And we still haven't addressed it to this day. We're now finally realizing that our children come into school and we expect them to be ready to learn, but they have divorce that takes place in their families. They have mothers and fathers who are abusing each other. That's trauma. They bring that to school with them every day. And at the same time, we have teachers who go through changes, and we expect the teachers to be able to teach our children when they have problems at home. They just went through a foreclosure. I keep telling you, every decision we make has a financial consequence. So that bank manager is going to come out of me every now and then. Okay?
Oh yeah. I see.
But we are the experts of ourselves when we understand ourselves. Until we go back and address our past, until we look at what happened to us, how we grew up, how can we package this thing in an organized, structured environment and begin to address some of these issues. That's why Family United was so exciting to me, because here you are talking to people about relationships. In the word relationship is the word relate. Okay? And we say healthy, that's heal thy relationship. So we have to understand we'll never be wealthy until we become healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. Okay, that's important for us to know. But also in the word wealth and health is the word heal. That's in that word. So we have to make sure that, Greg, this trauma thing is bigger than we can ever imagine. Until we begin to address it as family, we have 64% of the divorces in our country as a bank manager deals with finance.
Wow.
These are statistics that we know about. So when you come to me, a divorcee, or when you come to me, one who has been through changes with your family, I'm going to be very skeptical how I do business with you and how much money I'm going to loan you, because you have the propensity to probably not pay me back. Okay. That's a traumatic experience. It really is. Bankruptcies in people's lives, divorces in people's lives, and credit problems in people's lives, and cancer in people's lives. Do you know when someone in your family gets cancer, do you know they never address the family? The person has cancer, yes, but do you know the impact it has on the husband, the impact it has on the child, the children in the home, on the family itself? It's a very important point to bring out, and can stay consistent with educating our people on the importance of being trauma informed is very, very important.
Wow. I wouldn't have never thought that this trauma thing can affect us in so many ways. I mean, wow. And especially from what you talk about from a bank manager financial perspective. And we don't realize these things until it actually hits home.
That's right.
So, man, I'm so glad that I picked that subject first to talk about that. But yeah, and we're going to talk about a lot of more subjects in regards to things that affect the family. And, but man, it seems as if you're the partnership. And that's one of the reasons why we brought you to this collaboration with Families United, because you are a wealth of knowledge in regards to what it is to nurture, sustain, and help keep the family structure going. Yes, we're going to leave it right there, and we will be back. This is Greg and Rashid with Families United. We're back, family. This is Greg and Rashid with Families United. We are discussing a lot of topics in regards to men, how trauma has affected us, how we can be better in our communities, we can be better fathers, we can be just overall better citizens. Men, we need to show up, we need to do things in the community, we need to become leaders. As you know, I truly believe that we were set. I believe the higher calling has given us the opportunity to lead. So when things don't go accordingly, there's always some things and issues that goes wrong. Now, we also have a guest. We have a guest which is from Community Connect, and his name is Rashid, and he's provided us to some insight in regards to a lot of topics. But before we go back to him, we also want to touch on, we're talking about a wide range of topics in regards to men. And we only have 60 minutes. I wish we had more because we've got a stack of subjects that we can talk about. But one of the things that we want to talk about that we didn't touch upon is fathers. And of course, there's not a lot of light shed on how fathers can have better relations with their children. And one subject that kind of caught my attention was how can fathers promote leadership skills with their kids? Because we go about there's situations in regard to a lot of absentee fathers, and then you have blended families. You have all types of subjects where men just need to be more in front of their children. And this situation here, there's 4 things that I think subjects that really caught my attention in regards to how fathers can promote and make their children more leaders, more for the future, because we always talk about mom's role and how mom has bonded with children from childbirth, and how mom and that's true. I'm not taking anything away from that, but men need to become a better role models in their family. So the 4 things that that really caught my attention is, men, when you're bonding with your children, and we know the subjects, what we like to do. We like to go to ball games. We like to fix cars. We like to do all those manly things and that sort of nature. But have we ever thought about some of the things that we need to do to prepare our children to be leaders for the future from a male perspective? And the 4 subjects that I came up with that I thought were very vital and very important for fathers is, number 1, let them lead at home. And what I mean by that, you can have them assist with a heavy load of lifting. Let them choose what they want to eat. Let them participate in gathering ingredients in regards to preparing food and even cooking and things of that sort of nature. So you're preparing your children to be responsible at an early age, because who knows, there might be a situation or time where they have to prepare a meal for themselves. And I just thought that was real important in regards to fathers bonding with their children. Number 2, let them join a team activity. Let them join a team or an activity. I'm sorry about that. And what I mean by that is, this weekend, let them pick or join a team activity or camp or anything this summer. Anything of that sort of nature where they can gain some type of independence without you being present. Fathers, these are things that are so important because, sometimes you can just go out and look around and you just don't see a lot of fathers bonding with their children. So these are 4 things that I came up with that I think fathers, dads, if we can get in this situation where we can get with our children and exercise at an early age where they're learning various things and they're acquiring things. But if we prepare them for these leadership skills and these things of that sort of nature, we'll be surprised at the results of what we can get with our children. Okay, number 3, let them speak to adults. What I mean by that is you want them to be able to carry a mature conversation in regards to, pick subjects that are, they could be political, they could be anything, but let them get in the act of talking and having mature adult conversations. Because, when mom takes the children out, of course, they're talking about a lot of things in regards to cooking and things that are related to home. How many times, men, do we take the children out to talk about careers, life, politics, religion? All those subjects are very important. So again, number 3, let them speak to adults. And number 4, the most important thing that I think that is important that men need to have a conversation with their children is let them set goals. whether they do it from a time frame from 6 months to 1 year or 5 years, let them jot down ideas in regards to what they want to be in life. Let them talk about what careers that primarily interest them most. And once you sit down and you role play and you tell them the salary requirements and what that career entails, in regards to, whether they want to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, etc. Sit down and talk with them about setting goals. And when they set the goals, that they put them in a mirror or somewhere where they can view it on a daily basis. Those things are very important. Now, back to our guest here. We have discussed a lot of things in regards to trauma. We've talked about what your former occupation was as a bank manager and how finance relates to the family structure. But Rashid, I want to talk about these life skills. These life skills keep coming up in regards to men. Can you give our listening audience some tidbits on these life skills and how this thing can help men mature and be what we can say better men and representing their communities?
Yeah, this is, pretty exciting to me to talk about here because that's my thing. Comprehensive life skills. I hate the word life skills. You got to put comprehensive on it.
Comprehensive. Okay, we'll do that.
Okay. One of the problems, Greg, as you were speaking about the 4 things there, one thing came to my mind is this: modeling is something that's very, very important. But how do you model something that you don't know about?
True.
Most men don't even know they don't know. And I always like to give credit to women because women are the ones who bring us into this world. I like the word woman, period, because in the word woman, I kind of break it down a little bit. The womb of man. They carry you. They're the first teachers. They're the ones who will get us in that modeling mode. They're the ones who put us in that state of mind that we want to be respectful. We want to be comprehensive with whatever we do. We want to be the best of the best of the best. But for some reason, society has beat down women. And I say this: we need to be a champion for women because when women lead, families succeed.
Absolutely.
You can never rise any higher as a nation until you raise your women in high esteem. Mm-hmm. So I like to start off with that part. What does it feel like to feel well? That's something that we need to think about. When we start talking about modeling and being around our children, we have to also be able to look deep into our own selves and say, what is the wellness plan that I have to come up with to be a good father? What is a good father? What is the role of a man? What am I supposed to do? I'm the maintainer, protector, provider for my family. That's deep. That's stressful. When the situation comes up, you get laid off your job, when you're trying to get a job, when you don't have proper education, when you see times changing, like the internet came into existence, this came into existence, we're losing jobs like crazy. This stressful thought process has really affected men's ability to model, has affected men's ability to be safe, and to do some simple things that we know that to be a good father is really kind of simple. It really is. So this wellness recovery action plan that we have to put in place for ourselves starts with ourselves. We are the experts of ourselves. We know our shortcomings. We know our weaknesses. But if we don't know how to address them, that's an issue. We don't have the hope that's necessary because the society has beat us down. We haven't taken the personal responsibility because we may not have the education or the information that will get us to the next level. One thing men don't do is self-advocate and support. We need to self-advocate for ourselves and also find a support system that we can get involved in to help us talk to another person who's going through the same thing that we're going through. That's really important. You see, the impact of these activities that go on in everyday life is scary to most guys. Women are used to it because they raise children by themselves like a man and a woman, So we the ones who fall short, So it's really, really important that we understand that in our toolbox, we got to come up with wellness programs.
Yes.
What triggers me to get angry? Conflict resolution is really important. We have an anger problem.
Yes.
So what is our daily maintenance plan that we use to make ourselves well? What do you do when you find yourself getting angry? Well, in my situation, I go listen to some jazz. That really calms me down a lot because anger is borderline insanity. Because we say things in anger, We shoot people in anger. We curse our wife out in anger. We say things to our children in anger. But once you say those things, you can't take them back.
That's right. That's right.
And it's hurtful. And that sets off another trigger. That sets off another trauma. That sets off another thing in our lives. And we begin to realize that, I'm not growing. I'm really not growing. Well, what's stopping you from growing? Trauma will stop you from growing. It takes away from the connectors in your frontal cortex. You forget things. Your attention becomes difficult. Your emotional behavior begins to be re-regulated in a way that's not normal or not natural. We just have to understand the importance of the things that happen to us in our everyday life. Society is traumatic. Work is traumatic. Finance is traumatic. And these are things that men have to protect and act like we got it like that. And we don't have it like that without a support system. We don't have it like that when we try to self-advocate for ourselves or seek the opportunity to work with a woman to do the things that we need to do.
Wow. Again, we're back to that trauma thing.
Can't get away from it.
Yes, we can't. So that's one of the main reasons why we led the show off with prayer, because we feel that that's the one thing that can combat that prayer. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we will be back shortly. This is Greg and Rashid with Families United. This is Greg and Rashid back with Families United. Family, we have touched upon a lot of great subjects. We've talked about, with our special guests, we've talked about how trauma affects us in so many areas. And we've also talked about life skills. We've talked about what it means to pray. We've discussed a lot of things in regards to what men should be, where they should try and direct their lives in regards to making their families more healthier, making their relationships more healthier, making themselves more vibrant, making themselves more worthy. And of course, we've also talked about, of course, the health portion, how men won't go, have problems in regards to going to the doctor. So overall, all these subjects, family, for men is to, it's sometimes it's okay to let your soft side down, because historically we have been nurtured. We've seen a lot of trauma in our lives. We harbor a lot of toxic stress. We don't communicate effectively, and that all has a negative effect on our total outcome of what we can be as a human being. So we're going to just open up this last segment. We're just going to go all free for all. One of the things that I'm going to ask Rashid, what is the most important thing that he feels that is affecting our families? And I am going to give my important subject that I think that affects the family, and we're just gonna probably end up closing it out from there. But before I do that, I want to also let you know that this is you can also reach us at 314-772-2260 or info@healthyrelationships.com. And we love your feedback. We love to sit down and talk with you, because we do retreats. We would come to your churches, your groups, your sororities, anything in relation to talk about relationships. We discuss it, because think about this from an aspect. When your plumbing goes bad, you don't call the fireman, you call a plumber. When your house is on fire, you don't call the preacher, you call a fireman. What happens when your relationship is bad? So we try to hit on these subjects and topics and things of that sort of nature to give you some preventative care information on how you can make your relationship better. Just had to get that out of the way. But also, we discussed about how what's the two most important things, and I'm going to go first in regards to what I feel that is the most important thing that is affecting the family. I am going to probably say finances, because I know on one of the show segments that we did prior to today, we talked about how finances can affect a marriage. And we also gave solutions in regards to what you can do to your significant other, how you guys need to mature together as one and do a lot of preventative work in regards to seeing how your mate does with finances. Talk about how their families did with finances, because you got to do a lot of soul searching when you decide, okay, if I spend my life with this person, how good are they with the checkbook? How good are they with paying bills? How good are they with not waste and dealing with the important things of keeping the family strong? Because as we all know, there will be rainy days. And when you have not nurtured and sustained your finances normally, then you come up with situations where you have to borrow and you have to deal with higher interest rates. And as our guest is a bank manager, so he has been around in regards to seeing families who did not effectively manage their finances. So with that, I can go on, but I want to pass the torch over to Rashid and see what is his most important thing in regards to what affects a family.
Greg, I think really the main issue is, what lens are you looking at your person or your family or your relationship with?
Okay.
It's an environmental thing. We get married and not know that this person has a credit problem.
True.
We get married not knowing whether the person knows how to manage money. We get married not knowing that that person may have came from an abusive family. True. We get married not knowing, or get in a relationship not knowing that this person could have been abused. You don't know. So I think the biggest issue here is the lack of information about what life really is all about.
Wow.
The lack of information on what it is to talk and be with another person in a relationship. As I said before, if you can't relate, there will be no ship going anywhere. Okay?
That's true.
And so what I look at is most of our environmental things that happen to us growing up dictates what our values are.
True.
Once your values are established, it will determine whether you're going to be educated, seek education, one of those type of people who inquires about what's going on in their normal surroundings. That's why you find most people with dispositions that are just ugly. And from that bad disposition, based on your education, based on your values, based on your environment, you have a horrible attitude. So until we understand how to talk to each other, and as you said before, I'm not going to go to my car break down. I'm not going to go to a doctor. My car break down and find out what's wrong with it. If I run out of gas, I know I need gas. But when we run out of relationship information, what do? Once again, let's get back to that support system, that self-advocacy system. The fact that we have to know, just like your resume, it's the sum of you. In the word resume, it says sum. So you have to know the person you're getting married to or getting in a relationship with. So I look at it like this, from a financial perspective, that if your husband has bad credit and you got good credit, you guys get together and apply for something together, guess what? You got bad credit. If you have a husband who has a bad driving record, you have a good driving record, you put him on your insurance, guess what's going to happen? Your insurance is going to go up. These are the type of things we don't know about. You don't know whether a person comes into a relationship, I got my money, you have yours. When we get together, guess what? It's my money now. It's not our money. So now we have another issue. Now we're fighting over money, which is the beginning of that. Abuse does not start with hitting somebody. Abuse starts with mental disposition. Abuse starts with things that you don't know about each other, and the fact that you want to kind of control someone, the power of somebody else over you. We don't even know who the person is. So until we understand how to evaluate each other, how to be able to know that I'm gonna have to do some work on you. I need your dossier on who you are as a person, because that's gonna affect you one day in a relationship. So you have to know these types of things. So you got to make sure that you know how to get well and stay well. And on top of that, you got to know how to resolve life issues and challenges. If you don't have that relationship where you can communicate with that person, you got some issues.
Wow. And all that is so important because, and the only reason why I say I thought that finances would be important because I know that is part of why over half marriages end.
Yes.
Because of people not understanding how important finances is. But also you touch on some heck of a points in regards to knowing yourself.
Yes.
And before you can know anyone else, you have to sit down and see, well, how's self doing? And you have to be honest with yourself.
That's true.
You have to understand, well, where are my shortcomings? I remember one time going to it was at a church, and the pastor had stated that we were going to have, we were coming to a funeral. And we elaborated, well, who passed? What was going on? He said, well, I'll just tell you all the details. You just come. Upon us coming, he had it was a ceremonial thing, and it kind of didn't make sense. But once we got there, he had the funeral, and the casket was closed. And when we got there, we thought it was weird, but we understood the logic out of what he was trying to say. He opened the casket up, and then it was a mirror. And we were like, wow. So as the ceremony ended, he said, church family, I just want you to know, this was brought upon us as looking at ourselves. Because sometimes we can say mean things to one another. Right. We can do things to one another. But if we get to know self, we're not going to treat self bad if we know self.
That's true.
So I can definitely relate to that. And especially from the family structure, we definitely have to sit down and know who we are.
Right.
And mentally, are we ready to sit down and take on this enormous task of what the family structure is?
That's one of the first concepts of comprehensive life skills, self-identity.
Self-identity.
That's
right.
We can't even go nowhere. We can't go any further until we understand how to deal with our own selves and our own issues and our own situations and circumstances. So it's so important that you understand self-identity. I like to say cell identity because all we are is a bunch of cells, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
we're a combination of cells upon cells upon cells. So I try to make sure know thyself.
Right.
That means I know who I am. I walk around with this body 24/7. I don't even know how it works. I don't even know that I need 60 minerals every day, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 3 fatty acids. I don't even know that. So when your body starts dysfunctioning, guess what? Once your physical body begins to dysfunction, your mental concept goes away.
Well, that old cliche, that old saying is that if you don't know where you've been, you surely don't know where the heck you're going. So, and that includes even in your past history. And a lot of us grow up, there's we're speaking from a male perspective today, audience. Yes. We're talking about a lot of absentee fathers not in the household. So you have dads, we have to really sit down and realize that when we're not present, we're not guiding our young people for the future. And the future is very important. So, now if you want to sit down and say, you know what, I don't care about the future, I don't want to have children, but that's fine. That's your own personal preference. But it is vital and is important to our country, to our God, to our churches, to our wives, and most importantly, to ourselves, that we be better for our families, for our communities. And we hope that after you hear this program, you'll see, well, wow, it's not such a bad idea to just go get myself checked out at the doctor. And it's not such a bad idea to look and see some of the self-development things that I need to do to make myself a better person. So, we are, my guest, Rashid, is there any one little thing? I know time is running short. Is there any one thing you would like to add before we can wrap things up?
All I want to say is let's take care of our individual life so we can take care of our family life. If we take care of our family life, we can take care of our community life. If we take care of our community life, we can take care of our city life. If we can take care of our city life, guess what? We got a great state going on. So I look forward to talking with you again and working with you in the future in regards to what we're talking about
Well,
tonight.
we will invite you back, family. It has been a pleasure. I hate for it to end, but this is Greg and Rashid with Families United, and we are going to say so long, and we will be talking to you soon.
Thanks for having me.